Did you know that import tariffs globally have declined in recent decades, whereas non-tariff measures or non-tariff barriers have increased? Because of the prominence of non-tariff barriers to trade, today we look at what they are and what they mean to you as an exporter. Hi, I'm Dr. Sarita Jackson, President and CEO of the Global Research Institute of International Trade. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Trade on Tuesdays at 2, where today we focus on what you need to know about non-tariff barriers to trade, and specifically regulatory or technical barriers to trade. In an earlier episode number 10, I talked about quotas, which are restrictions on the amount of a good that can enter a country. However, another type of measure beyond tariffs that may be used as a form of protectionism are technical barriers to trade. As an exporter decides on a market, it is important to also look at technical barriers to trade that may make market access more difficult. Technical barriers to trade are regulations in which a product must comply, for example, with regard to design, labeling, and packaging. Now, allow me to clarify, regulations and standards are required to ensure that products crossing borders do not cause harm. However, when domestic regulations are imposed in a discriminatory manner and designed to create an unnecessarily high cost for goods produced in other countries to enter that market, they are considered technical barriers to trade. Now, usually cases are brought before the World Trade Organization or the WTO to make this final determination. So here are two things that you need to know. Number one, consider the impact. According to the WTO, trade barriers in general represent at least 14% of trade costs in all sectors. And these barriers include regulatory or technical barriers. Now, such barriers will increase the cost for you to do business in other markets that have technical barriers to trade. Number two, know which countries have technical barriers to trade and for which products. For instance, the Office of U.S. Trade Representative, or USTR, lists several technical barriers to trade, such as procedures for cheese entry into the Mexican market, automotive safety standards that still exclude U.S. vehicles that follow U.S. federal motor vehicle safety standards, thus making it difficult to enter other markets such as Colombia and the Philippines, among other countries. So what are some of the barriers that you are facing when accessing the international market? We would love to hear about your experience. So go ahead and share your experience and or raise a question in the comments section below. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Trade on Tuesdays at 2.